感谢刘总的回答，为我们带来了 ESG 在国内发展的精彩见解。接下来，让我们欢迎 Seneca ESG 的创始人兼首席执行官 Jonathan。Seneca ESG 是一家商业信息公司，致力于提供 ESG 数据加分析、评估、报告、投资者关系以及运营、投资和风险管理流程相关的咨询和软件解决方案。Jonathan 是一位企业家，也是一位技术顾问，拥有丰富的将人工智能、机器学习、大数据和区块链技术应用并解决现实问题的经验。Jonathan 拥有宾夕法尼亚大学的计算机工程和经济学学位，以及加州大学伯克利分校哈斯商学院的 MBA 学位，同时也是 CFA 持证人。Jonathan, welcome again to join our event.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to join, and I appreciate that kind introduction. My name is Jonathan Ha, and I am the founder and CEO of Seneca ESG. Seneca ESG is a business intelligence company that focuses on providing software solutions to both corporates as well as investors in integrating ESG into their business workflow. I'm very excited to be here, so thank you again.
You are very welcome. We are excited to have you as well. So Jonathan, my first question for you is, how do you look at the ESG standard divergence and what should be the approaches for investors to integrate ESG into investment?
Well, certainly I do recognize that there continues to be many ESG disclosure standards, and to some extent, they are in competition with each other. You know, there are only so many standards that a corporate may have time or resources to be able to follow. But at the same time, we also recognize that ESG standards disclosure harmonization is already starting to take place. And I'm very excited about that. And it's certainly the direction that I believe the industry needs to move towards in order to achieve greater adoption of ESG practices, both by corporates as well as the financial ecosystem. So a quick example of that standards convergence that's taking place. Just last November, the IFRS Foundation announced the establishment of the ISSB, the International Sustainability Standards Board, which combines SASB, Integrated Reporting Framework, CDSB, TCFD, as well as World Economic Forum initiatives. So this is super, super exciting. Finally, we're starting to see some harmonization and standardization take place, which is, I think, one of the things that has always been a challenge for both the reporting side as well as the investor and financial ecosystem side. So it will take some time to come to fruition, however. This is not something that can take place overnight, of course, but at the same time, investors should not be waiting to integrate ESG into their investment thinking and decision-making process. In fact, there's already quite a lot of ESG data that's out there. And in fact, Refinitiv provides a fantastic data set on ESG. And this is one way in which companies can start their journey, start their process of integrating ESG into their investment thinking. In addition, ESG is constantly evolving. You know, even as a definition, it could be really difficult to nail down, and that's okay. You know, in fact, it is one of those things that will likely continue to evolve over time as values change, priorities change, so on and so forth. So one of the key things to recognize when starting to look at ESG and integrating it into investment thinking and the investment process is that every firm's values and objectives are different. And you have to consider that when you're applying ESG as a concept to your investments. So one of the great things that we do at Seneca ESG is we provide those tools that allows you to make your own scorecards, your own custom assessment frameworks and scorecards so that it best reflects your firm's vision, your firm's values, your firm's objectives, and something we're very excited to share with the market.
Thanks for your answer, Jonathan. Here comes to my next question. What is your observation for speed or trend of investors from both developing markets and emerging markets in terms of incorporating ESG into their investment workflow?
So we've recognized that Europe for decades has identified sustainability as a major issue to address when it comes to corporate behavior and reporting, while the rest of the world, including Asia, has been playing catch up. So that being said, when ESG adoption does take place in some of these other markets, it tends to take place at a faster pace than perhaps expected, given that many of the lessons learned and best practices can be applied to these emerging markets when they do start to apply ESG to their business processes, to their investment processes. And that's really great to see. In particular, in Asia, there are certainly pockets of activity taking place. And you take a look at Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore. Certainly in a lot of these markets, there has been increased pace of adoption of ESG and sustainability, and that's great. And in addition to that, one of the largest countries in the world, both in terms of size, population-wise, as well as economic activity, China, is now pledging a very strong focus on climate in particular as part of the overall sustainability trend, and has pledged that by 2030, the entire country will reach carbon peak, and by 2060, carbon neutrality. So this is a very, very ambitious goal and something that I'm very excited about and will certainly make a major impact, positive impact on the rest of the world.
Okay, great. My last question for you is, people are talking a lot about AI, machine learning approaches for ESG research. What is your perspective for the traditional fundamental ESG research and AI-based ESG research?
Well, I do believe that currently there is a place for both fundamental ESG research as well as AI-based ESG research. But the way that they're being applied is likely going to be very different. So to go into a little bit more detail, on the fundamental side, it's a reflection that ESG as a concept is very fluid. It's constantly evolving, and in fact, it's very much informed by the individuals or the firm's own values, objectives, and best practices. So if you ask 100 different companies, what is their approach to ESG? What are their values? What are their key objectives? You'll likely get 100 different responses, somewhat similar, but different all the same. And when you think about fundamental ESG research, it's a way in which you can address that. When you come from the perspective of an investor, that investor may have their own objectives at play. They may at once be more focused on climate priorities. Another firm may be more focused on social elements. And even under the umbrella of these pillars, E, S, and G, there may be certain elements that they want to prioritize or deprioritize. So these are things that are really best left to the analyst's best judgment as to how to apply to reflect, their firm's values and also their LP's values as well. When it comes to AI-based ESG research, I think one of the key challenges that it looks to solve is to solve the challenges that persist in ESG data. And as we see standards converge, the challenge of having very different types of data, spotty data, gaps in data sometimes, I think that will start to diminish. Because once most companies, if not all companies globally, are starting to use the same disclosure frameworks, then we'll likely see standardization and convergence in the data as well, and data quality as well will probably go up. And the need for AI-based research will likely start to decline. It may still be there. It's very helpful for helping to sift through large data sets, especially data that is quite noisy at times. But when it comes to the key data, the key metrics that defines a company's ESG footprint or its ESG profile, so to speak, I do believe much of the analysis will be driven still by the human element, by fundamental ESG research. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share my thoughts with you today. And it's very exciting to see a space that is so vibrant and continuing to evolve and innovate. We at Seneca ESG also would like to evolve and innovate and share our ideas and our views, as well as the solutions that we've built to the rest of the market. We do believe it is a fantastic opportunity globally and for society at large to continue to promote ESG and sustainability as key elements of any corporate's reporting, as well as behavior, as well as the investment process. And it is the key steps that we can move towards to make the world a better place.
Thank you for your excellent answers, Jonathan. I believe you well explained the application of ESG research in AI machine learning. Thanks again for joining this interview.